What's up, everybody? And welcome to another episode of a podcast that we used to do all the time, and everyone loved it, and now we very seldom do it. But we had to do a really special one, which is why I brought everyone together, because this is the first podcast ever with Guy Cisternino as a Blackstone Labs athlete. We have Guy Cisternino on today.
What is going on, everybody?
And because
happy to be here.
But it's such a big deal that I didn't want to just do it by myself, so I brought both of my co-hosts on. So we've been alternating between Billy and Super Saiyan Sami. So
yeah,
it's a little crowded in
my
here.
My doppelganger?
It's a little crowded, but you're worth it, Guy.
For sure.
I appreciate it, buddy. I mean, I'm excited. I'm trying to figure out why my Skype just fucking screwed up everything. Man, I'm excited. You know, this has been a fucking, I mean, TJ, we've talked about this for how long, about joining like forces. Like, I think every company I've been with, we've at some point, whether it was BSN, Centurion Labs, and Fit, we've touched base, and like, we're always bouncing the idea off of me being with Blackstone Labs for the past fucking 10 years.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, people have said to me so many times, like, how come you and Guy don't do something? How come you and Guy don't do something? And same thing I've always told Guy, we've always talked about this, is in this industry, friends are few and far between. They really are. And Guy truly pretty much is the last friend that I have left from when I started bodybuilding. So I still have like my non-bodybuilding friends from like school and shit. But as far as like people that I got into bodybuilding with, and I by the way, I don't mean that as any disrespect to like somebody like Evan Centopani, who I still love. We just got out of touch. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't talk anymore. Yeah. And Guy is the one person that I've stayed like consistently like good friends with all these years. And so I just always told him, you know what, man, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Like, what happens if I bring you on and then it fucking ruins our friendship like all these other ones? Like,
that was your main fear. And I told you, I said before this happened, I go, first and foremost, I will never let business get in the way of a friendship, ever. I don't care if I don't agree with something. I was like, we'll figure out a way to make it work. I said, I'll never allow that to happen, because I've seen shit. It's happened to me with friends, and it's had you know, like guys like Dominic DeKio, who don't even, like, back in the day, who trained with me every day, and like I turned pro and he didn't, and got like butthurt and never talked to me again. So it's like, you know, with me and you, it's been 20 years of fucking, I mean, we've done everything from compete together, fucking eat at families' houses, fucking cried together, laughed together, fought together, fought alongside each other. Like, we've done everything.
Yeah, he's not even exaggerating either. We have done all that. And we'll in the future, we're going to talk about all these good stories, because we have so many stories that we could probably do a year of podcast to keep everybody on their toes. But today, I wanted to basically, I know that all of our listeners already know who you are, but for anyone that doesn't have a clue, we're going to talk about the history of you and I meeting and where your career went. You know, we started at the same time. We went in very different directions, and
keep talking. My floors are getting redone, so I'm at my fucking parents' house, and they have a fucking house. Like, who has a house phone anymore?
They still have a house phone?
Old school. There's a lot of places.
They still have a house phone?
There's a lot of people that have house phones.
Fucking thing. Who has this? Have you seen one of these?
I'd be really impressed if it had the cord on it still.
My dad probably has it somewhere in the basement.
So basically, for everybody to know like where the story started, this is like a funny true story, is you went to school at Western Connecticut State University, which is in Danbury. And I grew up in Danbury, New Fairfield, basically the same thing. And at the time, I was living in my grandparents' house still.
Yes. Nan and Pop, man.
Nan and Pop. We've had some great memories at Nan and Pop's house that we'll get into in future shows too. My grandma came home. She was like, Guy Cisternino was naked in the bathroom, shaving his body with the door open. And I was like, oh man, he could have just shut the door. And I was like, you know, hey.
Nobody was home.
We're all family, right? So, without getting deep into all these funny stories, now I brought in Sami and Billy to interject on like the actual like bodybuilding stuff. I'm gonna let you tell most of the story, but when we met was you had already done a bodybuilding show, and
Yep.
I was training and I was bodybuilding, and this kid, Scott Perlman was his name.
Yep.
Said you got to meet this kid guy. He's just like you. He's fucking hooked on bodybuilding. He's got a lot of potential. He plays on the team, this and that. And I was just like, same as I am now.
Nobody's as good as me.
I was like, yeah. I was like, same as I am now. I was like, whatever. But he kept on talking about you, so I was like, you know what? Tell him to send him in to Bennigan's, where I worked on Wednesday nights because it was karaoke night and it was a college town and it just got crazy in there. And so the first night I ever met, Guy came in to Bennigan's. And I said, tell him to bring a notebook. And he came in with his notebook that he still fucking has, by the way. And we started talking, and that's how the whole beginning of our relationship started. We clicked right away. And then we became training partners after that.
Yeah, we trained together every fucking day. Every day we trained. There was 3 gyms we trained at. What was the gym you used to work at originally? Remember that gym you worked at?
Powerhouse Gym in Brookfield, Connecticut.
Brookfield. So we trained at Brookfield Sports Club, and we trained at Powerhouse and Brewster. Those were our 3 bounce arounds that we went to every day.
Yeah, and Brewster, I wound up dating the owner of the gym for a long time.
You started dating the owner of the gym when the owner of the gym was still married.
Yeah, but her
Dun, dun, dun.
Here's the thing, though. Her husband.
Her husband was such a fucking twat.
He was such a dick, and they were on their way out. I was just like, I was the push that made her move, you know. Still living at home with my grandparents, trying to kick it to this married girl. That actually got me out of the house, though. That actually got me out of the house because the first time I ever brought her there, I was like, look, we have to be super quiet because we can't wake up my grandparents. And I was sleeping on an air mattress. And so I was bringing this girl, this married girl, older than me, that I want to impress, to my grandparents' house to have sex on a fucking air mattress next to my grandparents' room. It's the most non-pimp situation that you could ever imagine. It was still magical, though. But that actually inspired me to get out. I was like, I can't. If I'm gonna be a real adult and have real relationships, I got to get out of this house.
Yeah, you were a fucking train wreck back then.
So, not to try to keep. I like how you keep flipping it back on me. We're supposed to be telling about your history today.
Well, they have to know the real truth.
the real truth. As if what out there isn't true.
How did you start bodybuilding? Why did you start bodybuilding?
Yeah, we want to talk because you had already done a show.
Yes, I did. 2003 was my first show. I did it in West Virginia. It was a NAVA show because I had scheduled an NPC show that actually got canceled 9 days before the show. And I remember being like, fuck, what do I do? Because I had to pick a specific show at a time because I had to report for football camp in college. So I had to pick a show that was before football camp because I had to report for football camp. So the show, I think, was August 10th. And they canceled it 9 days before the show. I was actually at my parents' house. And I remember being on the computer downstairs fuck. Should I just go to McDonald's? Is that it? I don't know what to do. I specifically remember almost going to McDonald's right up the road just to eat fucking garbage. I've been dieting for so long.
How long were you dieting for?
Huh?
How long were you dieting for?
16 weeks.
You did your own diet, right?
You know that idiot that worked at GNC, the guy Mike. It was Mary's boyfriend.
Yes. He was.
See, this is how far. Yeah. So he actually wrote me my first diet, and then a guy by the name of Steve Pappas, who was a big NBC competitor in New Jersey, took over the reins of the dieting towards the end. But neither one of them really knew what the fuck they were doing. So I ended up Googling shows August 10th, in the world, just trying to figure out the same time frame because the week after the show I had to report for football camp. And I found a show in West Virginia. I called the promoter. He was like, you absolutely can come because it was already past registration dates and shit. And I didn't know that you could sign up the day of the show. So I took my Bronco fucking 2 into the shop.
We were just looking at the new Bronco that's coming out.
And I fucking said, give me $1,000. I said, do whatever you need to make this thing get to West Virginia and back. And it was $1,300. And me and my cousin drove to West Virginia, and I won the novice class, novice overall, open, and then I lost the open overall to Fred Smalls.
Wow.
I weighed in at 162 fucking pounds.
How about that story? Fred Smalls, all the way back in the day.
Yeah.
What
Fred
did
Smalls.
he weigh in at?
He was the first like mutant I've ever seen. I was like, this guy's fucking huge.
Yeah, I remember him way back then. He was competing for a long time back in the day. So then from there, you had to go and play football. What position were you playing?
I played for 15 years. So I started in 3rd grade, and most of my time was running back and middle linebacker or nose guard sometimes too in defense. And then I got recruited for running back because I was fast. And then I got moved to cornerback because there were so many better running backs than me. Because I went to a school that I had like Division I athletes. They were just not really that smart. Mm-hmm. So like the talent was just bar none better than mine. So they moved me to cornerback because I was quick and I sucked at cornerback.
And when you were playing football, though, I know that you were still like basically eating and training like a bodybuilder.
So this is kind of where like my mentally tough aspect, I think, kind of came to fruition, was because in college, like I have a history degree, so I took like pretty intense classes, and I literally would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, do all my classes, go to football practice, and then right after football practice, I would go every day. I mean, PJ worked at GNC, so he knows fucking what we did at GNC. I remember fucking taking, like, I would keep boxes of like detour bars or U-turn bars or whatever fucking bars we had. Or PJ, back in the day, me and PJ used to take Mesotech packets, 2 of them, and open them up and use a flavored Gatorade.
Those are the shit.
As our post-workout. So I would literally go in the locker room, change, put shorts on, a T-shirt, eat a bar, wait 10 minutes, go up, and I would train like a bodybuilder. And I got yelled at so many times by the coaches for not following the fucking program. And one time the coach like screamed at me, and I was like, You're telling me I'm not following the fucking program? Yeah, I'm the strongest kid on the team. So I don't understand what the fucking problem is. And
what kind of numbers were you lifting when you were in college?
I squatted for 1 rep max. I squatted 550. I squatted 550. I benched 365, and I power cleaned 365.
And what did you weigh?
When I graduated, I probably wasn't even 200 pounds when I graduated.
Wow. So
strong.
While you were doing that, and then we met and we started training together, what was the first show you did after that?
2004 Garden State Classic, where I got punched in the face by that big guy on stage when he was hitting the most muscular.
Oh, that's
by the guy that won the overall, and they were like, so-and-so, he's been shot, hung, stabbed, bit by a shark, electrocuted. Remember that guy?
Yeah, bit by a shark, for real. Mm-hmm.
They listed off like all these things that happened to him, and it was like shot, stabbed, shark bite.
That shit happened to me in my first show.
That was the first show you helped me with.
That was where I was going with the story. I was going to say, who coached you for that show?
You did, and I won. I missed the overall. I never
started
won the
out
overall
winning. Years ago, I started out winning.
I never won a fucking open overall, not once as an amateur.
Well, it's hard. It's hard when you're a middleweight. You know what I mean?
You're still fucking coming at me with being smaller than me.
No, I'm just saying, like, you rarely see like
get it all the time.
Anyone that's not a light heavyweight or heavyweight win the overalls.
Yeah,
you know?
it's very The lighter classes usually never win fucking overalls, but no, PJ really taught me a lot. Like PJ was knee deep in the bodybuilding stuff. So when we trained together, I usually just paid more attention and took mental notes, and I was OCD. I was neurotic. I always wrote everything down. I kept a journal of workouts, what I ate, and I still have every single journal that I've ever had. They're in a box in my closet in my house. And PJ just kind of, he was older than me. He competed more than me. He knew more than me, just about supplements, about food, about training, about cardio, and I learned a lot from PJ. I probably would have done better with continuing with PJ before me and PJ made an awful decision to jump to another coach, which was a complete nightmare. We kamikazed ourselves with that one.
So I'm gonna interject a little bit with how that happened. So we did the Garden State together, and that was a fun time. That was the first time I had anyone else.
Matt Duval guest posed with Craig Richardson.
Yeah. Yep. That was the first time I had somebody else like really help me with a show. So like we did each other's tan, and we didn't. What did we use for our tan? We used
Dioderm.
Dioderm. A lot of people won't even know about Dioderm.
No.
So it's like
that was like before Pro-Tan.
It's like shoe polish, and we were doing it in the
backyard.
Back
in Dream Tan, we used both.
Yeah, we were
actually
like
got to use Dream Tan.
We were idiots.
We were idiots though. We looked like my mom was like, "You guys look so statue-y compared to everybody else. You look like bronze statues," and we were like covered in that shit. It's funny too because I wound up getting second in the light heavyweights, and
I got fourth.
I really think that if we didn't have that shit on, we probably would have looked a little bit better on stage because it
looked like we fucking were two pigs that rolled around.
Yeah, it looks like mud.
It's very muddy.
Yeah.
But I remember like we were in his guy's backyard with socks on our dicks, just painting each other in the backyard, and all of a sudden you hear this voice coming from the window, and it's Guy's dad, and he's just laughing his ass off.
Wait, had my dad met you yet?
No. He goes, "Honey, you gotta see what your son's doing in the backyard right now." And we turn around and we have socks on our dicks. I haven't even met his dad yet. And we just started laughing and giggling and just kept going with what we were doing. So after that show, we
great way to meet his parents.
So after that show,
it gets better. That's nothing. He's my dad saw parts of him that no man should ever see. But that's for another day.
We'll save that one for another day. So after that show, I'm trying to think of. So what happened was, this is what happened. After backtracking, after Atlantic States, I did Atlantic States. John Oriegan came to me about coaching, and I was like, and for the record, I like John Oriegan, by the way. So, but meeting him.
For the record, I can't stand him.
So he can't stand him. So now you meet this guy. He kind of looks like the professor from Jurassic Park.
Bro, insane. Like spitting image, doppelganger times 10.
Yeah, so if anyone hasn't seen him, he looks like the professor from Jurassic Park. Comes up to me with this like chewed up business card, and he's like, "You have a lot of potential. I'd like to see like how far I could take you." And I like look at the card and I kind of like just drop it on the ground, like whatever, weirdo. But he
was a big name dropper.
He said like
he
worked
with like Kevin Levrone.
Yes, he dropped a lot of names that he had worked with. Now he has actually worked with a lot of good bodybuilders over the years. Like he's the one who like found Dallas McCarver.
Caprice Murray.
He found all these young freaks is what happened was. And Jeff Long, like these young guys that were big guys like me at the time. And unfortunately, no one really stayed with him. But no. I did think that he actually cared about the people that he was helping. He
cared about PJ, and I'm going to tell you why he cared about PJ and he hated me. And this is like a 30-second story. This is the kind of prick this guy was. We went, and PJ's going to know as soon as I say it, we went out to fucking eat one day at a steakhouse. Right?
I knew you were going to fucking
we were off season. This is why I didn't like the guy. Off season, and PJ ordered his normal, like, I want a fucking ribeye, medium rare, or rare. He gets it rare. And sweet potato, this and that, and salad and dressing. And then it came time for me to order. And the motherfucker goes, I'll tell you what he's going to eat. And he orders me a plain steak, a plain sweet potato, and a salad with balsamic vinegar. And I'm like sitting there, and PJ's like looking at me like giggling because PJ like knew that I couldn't stand him. And then like we're eating, and John was like, "See that girl over there? She's staring at you." And you're like, "Yeah, she is. I wonder why she's staring at you." And he goes, "Because you're the fucking biggest, best-looking guy up in here." And I was like, "Are you fucking?" I'm like, "This is insane." So then, like, I had like this little portion of food, and PJ had this like monster plate of food. And I'm just sitting here like, "This is fucking ridiculous." And the guy actually took his steak and cut it in half. I was like, "Oh, he's gonna give me more food." And he takes the steak and he puts it on PJ. He goes, "Here you go, beast." He called PJ all these fucking nicknames. Never called me a nickname. It was PJ was the best looking, biggest beast. And then like he would get like weirder nicknames that would like over time, like he started calling me a beast, and then PJ was like the fucking mutant or the monster. Like he always had to surpass me and everything.
Sounds like me and Dane's relationship.
I will say that we used to meet him at
Strong and Shapely.
Strong and Shapely, which was a really fun gym to train at. We had good times down there. And there was
Bob Bonham doesn't own that anymore. You're allowed to train there now.
What's that?
I said you can train there now. Bob Bonham doesn't own it.
Oh, he doesn't?
That's another story for
no,
the
he sold
right?
it.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Is the gym the same?
Everything's exactly the same. I haven't been there, but I know people that go there say it's exactly the same.
I'll tell you, if you guys have not been to that gym, it's like probably top 5 best gyms in the country, as far as like how stacked up the equipment is.
Yeah,
I would.
They got some pieces there that I've never seen anywhere else.
That fucking weird ass leg press that's like strapped to the wall. It's like a pendulum thing. It's dangerous.
Yes. It's all white and rickety and shit.
I will stay away from that.
Those are good old days. We used to train with like, where'd you go?
Nope, I'm here. No, I'm here.
We used to go with like
a group. It was like me, you, Jeff Long, Chris LeCompte.
Yep.
That kid Darren that nobody liked. I still don't like him.
You still like him. I was talking to his wife this morning, actually. Rodney Roller used to come
Darren
sometimes.
that owns Monster Nutrition?
No, different guy.
No.
Rodney Roller. There's a bunch of good guys in that area that used to go and hang out. It was a fun time. And we went from John Oriegan to, I went and did Junior USA's.
Yep.
In 2006.
Six.
Yeah. And then I wound up doing the New England after that. And so for Junior USA's, I was still working with John. And I just really didn't like a bunch of the stuff that he had me doing. It felt like he was just throwing random things. Like I remember he wanted me to stack D-ball and anadrol. And I was like, both of them together? And at that point, I was kind of just like, you know what? I feel like it's time for me to move on. I trained myself for New England the week later. It's the first time I ever met Jay Cutler's show. And I won that show. And then from there, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was going to keep on prepping myself. But you had convinced me to go to Mr. Dave Palumbo, the meanest coach of all time.
Here. So let's get the facts straight. First of all, that was 2006, and then I met Evan, and Evan, I think, was working with Dave first. Mm-hmm. And just for the record, like, see how PJ was talking about, like, D-ball and anadrol? Do you want to know what, like, one of the things I'll never forget that I talk about all the time? He sent me a diet, John Oriegan, and he was like, one meal was like 6 ounces of chicken, a cup of broccoli, and 2 rice cakes. And he literally put in the notes under that meal, crumple the rice cake up and put it on the fucking broccoli. So I'm thinking there's like some scientific fucking reason why I'm crumbling a dry rice cake and putting it on wet, soggy, hot broccoli. I'm like, there's got to be a reason. And I did it for like a fucking week, and it was disgusting. So finally I called him. I'm like, John, can I ask a question? Is there a reason why I can't just eat the fucking rice cakes and you're making me crumple them over the fucking broccoli because it's ridiculous? And he goes, oh, bro, you can eat them. I just thought it would taste better. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, are you serious?
That's how meticulous guys always been, though, crumpling up rice cakes on broccoli.
Fucking retarded. Ridiculous.
So, you and Evan went to
So me and
first.
Evan met. I worked at GNC. I worked at GNC in the Danbury Fair Mall. Then I was the assistant manager at the one in Trumbull. Trumbull, Connecticut is where Evan grew up. And Evan came – actually, I didn't even meet Evan in GNC. I actually met him at a gym around the corner that used to be World Gym that eventually got turned into, I think, a Planet Fitness. And me and Evan were training there, and we met each other. And he actually came up to me and we started talking. And me and Evan hit it off right off the bat. And then Evan was working with Dave Palumbo, and me and Evan became very close. And then I introduced Evan and PJ, so we kind of all just became like really tight. And we all started working with Dave Palumbo. And this is where like the stories really get intense, because once Palumbo entered the fucking mix, it was like a complete shit show after that. Well, the fucking funny stories came out.
They were already working with him, and I was going up to train with them at Montanari Bros all the time. And I was doing my own thing. I was happily doing my own thing. You know, I was like, I wasn't in school anymore, but I had like put a lot of time and energy into like studying myself, and I was like really into it. But what they both did say, they were like, honestly, man, like aligning yourself with Dave is a good way to get yourself out there. It's a good way to get your name out there. You know, his affiliation with Muscular Development. it's definitely a good way to get your career going. And I was like, man, I really like doing my own thing. And they were like, oh, just go meet him. So I went to meet Dave Palumbo, just like when
I remember when I convinced you to text him. It was in your apartment. You were getting ready for a show. I'm like, bro, you got to message this guy. And you just fucking did.
Well, when I went to meet him, he told me to come meet him at a show. And I brought my notebook. And I'll never forget. It was so awkward. So I like sat behind him. It was like a mafia situation. Like I didn't even sit next to him. There was a bunch of people next to him.
PJ, sit over here.
It was like, sit over here. So I'm like sitting behind him. And I don't want to, I'm like, am I supposed to like lean over his shoulder and talk to him? Do I wait for him to turn around and talk to me? And like, I didn't know, like, was I supposed to give him money? Like, how does it all work? Right? So I had a list of like questions. And I started asking him all these questions.
See, Sammy, he took notes from me. See, now he's the one that brought the fucking notebook. Full circle, man.
That's interesting.
So I had all my questions, right? And halfway through the questions, Dave was like, yeah, you asked too many questions. And he was like, everything that I'm going to teach you, you can't find in textbooks. And I was like, well,
Which is the polar opposite.
I was like, well, how am I supposed to study everything? And he was like, I've done all these things myself. That's how you know. And the funny thing is, all these years later, there are certain times when people tried to like debate me on certain things, and I hit him with a little Dave Palumbo, trust me, I've done all these things already. I know what I'm talking about versus whatever you're going to read online. And so Dave was right there. That's like the true like definition of bro science right there.
Yes.
Yep.
Don't worry about what it says online. I've done all these things already.
I treat myself like a lab rat, so if it works for me, it works for you.
Yeah, exactly. So we then we all went together to Dave Palumbo's house and like to meet him and go over like our futures. And that's was
when he
like
was with Celeste, or not Celeste. Colette Nelson.
Yep, Dave and Colette.
He was married to Colette Nelson.
Or they were engaged. He never wanted to marry her.
What is weird, like later on when he had Species and stuff like that, his ex was actually working for him when he was married to his current wife right now. I thought that must have been really
Colette
awkward.
was?
Yeah, she was working for Species at the time when Frank was working there.
Yeah,
well,
she
Colette
did.
and Dave's wife, current wife, were good friends too.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yep.
He's probably rolling his eyes when somebody else.
Dave, you little fucking ham and egger.
So, at the time, Dave was actually still like pretty fucking big.
Yes.
Like he was pretty freaky still at the time. He wasn't like when he was like 300 pounds freaky, but he was still pretty fucking freaky. And we go to his house, and like I don't know what like we're gonna walk into, like I have no idea. Like you hear all these stories. And we get there, and there's these two, like, little fucking dogs. These, like, they don't even look real.
Abby?
It was Abby and Bella.
Bella, yes.
And they're, like, teacup Maltese terriers
they're
with barrettes
white,
in their
they're
hair.
about this big. And you got Dave Palumbo, who's got a size 15 foot, and the dog's, like, it was, like, the smallest dogs. And Dave was we talk about Dave taught me and PJ and helped us and helped rocket our career. Like I have the utmost respect for Palumbo. So I'm going to say that right off the bat. Like the guy, I don't have a bad word to say about the guy. I really don't. He's a fucking awesome man. But some of the stuff in that house was just, he had like huge fish tanks.
Crazy
like
fish.
All
sorts of like Star Wars memorabilia. Like
he had like swords and like ninja swords and like all crazy shit all over the place.
Like truly eccentric. Yeah, like the jet skis in the back and
so like he lived like right on the bay, on the water.
He had a good spot. So we go in to talk to him and he's like, Colette, I need my food. So he's sitting there and he's like covered in veins and he's like absolutely like freaky looking. And I was pretty like starstruck still by him at the time. And he's like talking and I just remember like I just couldn't stop staring at him. And he was like, are you listening? And I was like, I literally said, I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't stop staring. I've never seen anyone like that looks like you before. And Dave loved shit like that. He fucking loved hearing shit like that back then. He just got like this funny smile and then just started wolfing down the food that Colette gave him. So we all left there like pretty excited about like our future. And then Dave put me as the anabolic freak of the month shortly after that. And we had a really, really fun time, I will say, in those years.
It was a fun couple of years with us, yeah.
So that was like 2006. I went to 2007 North Americans. And was that your first nationals year?
Yeah, that's when I took second to Jose.
Took second to Jose.
Oh, shit.
And so the next year, 2008, I did North Americans again that year, and I was there.
You love that fucking show.
I just like the timing of it. I mean, it really wasn't like not a good spot. It was in Cleveland. You know, it was like in the middle of nowhere. But Gary Udit ran a really good show. He still runs an awesome show. He still runs it. Shout out to Gary Udit. I think it was just the timing of it. I always figured that I will do my best at North Americans, and then from there I will go to nationals. But what always happened was I was so mad at myself at North Americans that I was like, I need to go back to the drawing board. And so you were doing nationals that year, and you were, you know, the favorite because you had just lost to Jose, who Jose turned his pro card down like 13 times or some weird number.
It was ridiculous.
For what reason?
There was no 202 division.
There was no
yet.
two. Yeah, it started off as 202, went up to 210, and then changed it to 212. When we first started, it was 202. So there was no class. The first time the class started to be like when they announced the start of the 202 class was in 2007. So that's why he accepted. His pro card. So
because he pretty much knew once he accepted the pro card, there's no more competing.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the time, one thing that these guys don't really get to be a part of, unfortunately, thanks to social media and everything else, is at the time you could do quite a bit as an amateur bodybuilder. Like you could make a name for yourself as an amateur bodybuilder. You could make money. You could guest pose. You could do a lot. And Jose had a really, really big career already. You know, him and his brother were in a bunch of magazines. His brother was like the better looking one. Sorry, Jose. And his brother got to do a lot of like magazine covers and whatnot.
Modeling, he's like a celebrity.
I'm totally
trainer.
digging at Jose just because I hope that he hears this part. He knows that he knows that I love him. His brother was like a celebrity trainer and this and that. And Jose was the actual better bodybuilder, but he knew, like, if I turn pro, like, my career is kind of done, you know? So why not be the fucking best amateur of all time and just keep winning these shows and have people...
And he competed natural as an amateur the whole time. People didn't believe him.
Yeah, he was just that freaky. So then Guy comes in, favorite the next year, and he came down from, like, pretty heavy. What did you come down from?
220 to 176.
Yeah, 220 to 176. And Dave, typical Dave, tortures everybody. And I've talked about, like, how Dave tortured me before, but what did you have to do to get to 176 for that show? I think people should hear these stories because I feel like a lot of people still suffer, but they don't want to suffer the same way. And there's always coaches that are like, oh, you won't have to suffer with me. But I think it's important that people hear these things.
I mean, I don't honestly think I've ever suffered as bad as I did when I was with Dave.
Yeah. Oh, same thing with me.
There's like, I think back and I'm like, if I had to do that now, I don't know if I can do it.
I remember
it was like,
for that show, you said that you had done so much cardio that you had like worn the bottom of your feet off.
Yes. Fucking Steve Weinberger was like, you have to wear like double socks. He's like, for extra padding. He's like, because you have no fat cells left in your feet. Because my feet were so bony.
Yeah, they're all
I lost
mangled
so
and
much
shit.
fucking weight. I did 2 hours of cardio. I did 75 minutes of cardio twice a day.
Yeah.
So I was waking up in the morning before work. I was working full time, doing 75 minutes on the treadmill, going to work all day, going right from work right to the gym, working out, and then doing another 75 minutes of cardio, and then repeat it the next fucking day.
And
the only thing that saved me during those kind of preps were the fucking ridiculous Sunday night cheat meals that we got.
Yeah.
Because I went to fucking town. Like you remember, we used to eat sometimes together, and we'd eat into like oblivion until we were like breathing heavy and sweating and couldn't even fall asleep because our heart was going to explode.
Yeah, but I mean, we just relied on it so bad. Like, we just got to get to Sunday to get this fucking cheat. Yeah. We would drive like hours to meet together and just eat these fucking crazy meals. But
Cheesecake Factory.
You were doing what was your rotation of protein veggie to protein fat days?
Dude, I get protein. How about this?
Because
this
we did only keto with Dave. There was no carbs.
Yes. Meal 1 was 4 whole eggs. Meal 2 was a protein shake and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter.
Oh, gosh.
Meal 3 was chicken and half a cup of cashews. Then it was shake, two tablespoons of peanut butter. Then it was steak and salad. And then it was shake and peanut butter. It was 3 meals, 3 shakes.
But when did he rotate you into taking the fats out?
7 weeks out.
7
He pulled out all
weeks
the fats. And that's when your life goes to fucking complete hell. When he pulls the fats, it's literally like pulling your soul from your body.
Yeah, it's dramatically different. I will say, though, when you do that, the results do absolutely come in. You're just miserable doing it.
Miserable is not even the word.
He starts out with, we're going to rotate in 1 day of no fats with 2 days of fats. And then after like the first week, it flops to, okay, now we're going to do 2 days of no fats and 1 day of fats. And then it turns to 3 and then 4.
And then next thing you know, you're not even getting a fucking cheat meal and you're doing 3 hours of cardio, hating your fucking life.
Yeah, no cheat meal, more cardio.
Yeah.
Well, good. I think it's important that people know how much suffering goes into making those weights, especially, back in the day, Now there's all these other classes, so the
makes it easier.
The divisions aren't as saturated as they were back then. There was a lot of really, really good guys. So you were at weigh-in and you were like beyond shredded. Like I think Dave said that he felt you were the most shredded guy in the whole show. And here's something that a lot of people probably won't remember or know. I hope some of them do. But Dave was so proud of how good that you looked that he took up a picture of you doing a back double bicep.
I already know where this is going.
And Guy was so tired that he didn't even put his trunks on, which was like
I had a sock on
kind of normal back then. Dave was like, I don't care. I'm like a doctor. And he does a back double bi, fucking naked. He's so lean that you could see his asshole through his crack. The striations were so deep that the striations went into his fucking brown star. And Dave posted the fucking picture on Muscular Development.
Without telling me. So, like, a couple weeks later, I Googled my name to look up pictures, and the first fucking things that come up, Guy Cisternino naked. So I had to, like, contact Dave, and it was on Get Big.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that forum's still around.
Oh, they were having a field day with that.
I fucking made him. I go, listen, man. Like I have a full-time job. Like I can't have like my asshole. I go over the internet. I was like, this isn't like because Dave just took a picture. Dave took the picture. He's like, you got to see how you look. You look crazy. So he took a picture and he showed it to me. I was like, I'm pretty fucking crazy. I looked at the picture and didn't even remember it because I was so fucked up. And PJ will tell you about that. I was so fucked up from being so dehydrated, I almost had to go to the emergency room.
Yeah, it
was right after prejudging.
So prejudging is done, and what did he tell you to eat?
After prejudging?
Yeah.
It was I don't even think was it a burger and fries? Or I don't even remember what I ate after that. I think it was it was either burger and fries or steak and fries.
I just remember that it was pretty late at night, and I was kind of like, I used to do my thing back then. I used to like bounce all around all over the place. I was trying to like build my training business, and I was like, go to see other people, but I would always end up back at Dave's room. And so I get back into Dave's room, and Dave is working on the computer. Colette's like doing something in the other room, and Guy is just laying on the floor, and he's like basically like incoherent on the floor.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on.
So I'm like talking to Guy, and I could tell that he was like really, really out of it. And I'm like looking at Dave, and Dave's just like kind of like smiling, and he's like making faces, and he's like thinking like I'm like, what the fuck's he doing over there? So I was like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, I've been playing chess with this guy for like 2 days now. And I was like, you're playing chess right now? And he was like, yeah.
I think Guy's dying.
And I was like, should we do something about Guy? And Dave was like, he's very dehydrated. And so I'm like looking at him, and he's like fucking out of it on the floor. And I'm like trying to wake him up.
You and Mike Liberatori carry me to my room.
Yeah. So Mike Liberatore was part of our circle of friends, an outstanding bodybuilder also back then that was also working with Dave. We brought him back to his room, and I was like, Dave, what should we do? And he was like, he needs salty water. Go find him a Powerade Zero because he can't have the carbs, and put a salt packet in it. So it's like fucking.
And you go, don't let him. And he goes, don't let him fall asleep.
Oh yes, he goes, keep him awake. So I'm like, I gotta find a Powerade Zero and like salt packet in like the middle of the night, where I think that one was maybe in Atlanta, maybe that year.
Yes, I turned pro in Atlanta. Yeah.
So I find this random concession stand, and sure enough, they had fucking Powerade Zero, or maybe it was vitamin water.
It was vitamin water. It was the one with the yellow label.
Yes.
And it was like the clear one.
It was the vitamin water with nothing in it, and I got a salt packet, poured in, I shook it up, and I bring it up to his room, and I'm like holding his head up, right? Like
when you walked into the room, I was sleeping.
And I was like, "You've got to stay awake. You've got to stay awake." I was like trying to make him laugh. I was like, "Don't go into the light, whatever you do." And he's like, he's acting like a fucking baby bird, like just waiting for his mom to give him something. So he's like. And I was like trying to pour
He's like, you have to drink this. And it tastes like PJ took an empty bottle, went out to the ocean, and just filled it up and was like, here, drink this. It was so fucking gross. And I was like, I can't, bro. I can't. He's like, you have to. Dave said if you don't drink this, you have to go to the emergency room.
So I fucking get him to drink it. And then I'm like, once I felt like he was okay, I like go back to Dave's room. And Dave's like still playing chess. And he's like, did he drink it? And I was like, yeah. And then he like laughs and he's like, he'll be fine. And,
dude, I'm ready for this. 30 minutes after I drank it, I felt like nothing had ever even happened to me. I felt like $1 million.
Yeah. He just was severely
that one thing
dehydrated.
he did, it was crazy.
Wow. Obviously went on to win. And that was 2008, we said, right?
Yep.
So get your pro card in 2008. And at that point, what was next?
I took a hiatus for 2 years. I didn't compete for my pro debut until 2010. I did the Hartford Europa, which was in Connecticut. And I took, I think, 6th. And that was a complete shit show because I worked with Neil Hill, who I utmost respect for Neil. But the day of the show was just a nightmare. Like, just what he did with me just didn't work.
I remember seeing you and being like, dude, what the fuck? I had just seen you like a week later.
I worked with him too for like 6 months.
I don't know. He had Guy eating like, I don't want to turn this into like a bash thing because Neil will be like, I heard you talking about me on Guy's show and I'll hit you with my leprechaun gold. And he had him
I was
drinking
say, that's
like.
not Welsh.
He had him like drinking
Irish.
like fucking. He had him like drinking fucking like berries.
Like a quarter liter of diet soda. He told me to drink 3 liters of water after my first meal, protein shake with water. Like his thing, and I don't know what he does with Flex and like what he did with William and the other guys, but whatever he was trying to do with me, it just didn't work for me. Not that Neil doesn't know what he's doing, but for me, just some things work, some things don't. What he did just didn't work for me.
Now, let's pause for 1 second. Were you and I still working at Club 11 during any of this?
Me and you were working at Club 11 up until 2007.
Okay.
Because I moved back home in 07.
So we're going to leave a whole separate podcast for Club 11.
You guys have no idea about Club 11.
So both of us have been around this wonderful country, going to city after city, seeing all kinds of crazy shit in our lives. But I've said this, and I know Guy will say this too. I've never been to a club like fucking Club 11 in Danbury, Connecticut. In my
you know who's our guest for that show?
I mean, there's a lot of people.
Walker.
Mike Walker.
Mike Walker.
Dude, you know who came into, not to fucking get off on a tangent, you know who came into my Q&A the other day? And I of course remembered his name. Fucking Steve Beecher.
Rip Beach came in? Yeah, I played ball with him.
He fucking comes into my Q&A and he goes, shout out to Club 11. And I'm looking at his name and whatever his Instagram name is. And I was like, how do you know about Club 11? And he goes, it's Steve Beecher. Remember me? He's like, I played ball with Guy. I worked with you. And I was like, holy shit. And I started laughing. And then he actually started talking about people throwing people out, and like Walker throwing people out, and Greg Boucher throwing people out. Like this club, without like getting off of all the bodybuilding stuff, we're gonna tell like some down the road.
It was the worst club ever.
It was like insane. Like the amount of fights that went down every night. There was always like bootleg Girls Gone Wild shit going on in there, like filming. We'd seen girls getting banged in the bathrooms, like young girls getting like eaten out on the fucking bar, and then meanwhile just fights and gang shit going on all over the place.
Bad. Latin, yeah.
Between like the Latin Kings, and then the guys would come up from Bridgeport, and you know there was always like box cutters being confiscated and shit, and just it was like the worst gig possible. But we were all best friends, so we had like a lot of fun, and we were meatheads, so we would get very, very like violent with the way that we would remove people from the club. But it was also the ultimate place to pick up chicks.
It was so easy.
It was so easy.
As long as and we all wore the same like queer outfit. We all had on tight black like Under Armour shirts, so like nobody could like, grab them if we got into a fight. They were like super tight, and like I had like an XL on, and PJ had like a medium just to look bigger than me. And it was just like we didn't check. I think the reason why we acted the way we did and like fought the way we fought is because they didn't frisk anybody at the door.
No,
they never checked anybody's pockets. They didn't pat anybody down. They didn't go. They never listened to like the max capacity because there was a fire hazard because that place was always fucking beyond packed. It was just a bad.
One of guy's first nights working, he got basically like jumped by a bunch of gangbangers, and one of them smashed his head with something, like a bottle or something.
Oh yeah, I got staples in my head.
And he had to get staples in his head. His head was like spraying blood out, and he was like, "Fuck, should I go to the hospital?" And I was like, "Nah, you're all right." And then at like 3 a.m, he calls me and he's like, "Dude, I'm in the hospital. I have to get staples in my head." And I felt so bad that I like he still worked the whole rest of the night like that.
That was a quick story. We were just throwing. It was the end of the night. There was no problems, and I don't even know. Were you working that night?
Yeah, but I had told him, I was like, "Hey, so there were certain guys in there that, like, if there were parts of certain gangs that we knew that we were cool with, we would just basically
leave
be
them alone.
Hey, leave those guys alone. Let them do whatever." And so,
yeah.
Guy had told this one guy, like, "Hey, man, you're not allowed to wear your hat in here." And he was part of like one of those. I think he was part of like Crips, or I think he was one of the Crips. There was one guy in there that was like pretty big deal.
Oh no, that's not the night I got the staple, but that's the night the brawl broke out. I got staples on it. I think that was another night. I think the night I got staples was when I was telling everybody they had to leave because we closed, and that's when that popped off.
Well,
but that hat thing was another brawl.
There was a matter of like 30 seconds that I turned around and started talking to somebody, and then turned back around, and there's like at least a dozen guys, and I'm like, "Where the hell's Guy?" They're all in a circle around him, and then he comes out like, "Fuck!" And there's like blood squirting out of his head. Then I was just like, man, I started questioning, like, is it really worth banging these chicks, like, working at this place? I think you stayed there longer than me.
I did, because then Walker and Cecil started bouncing, and I stayed there with them. But the funniest thing, and the reason why I have this here, because I wanted to show you guys what I was talking about. See this kind of bottle? PJ one night threw a bottle of Poland Spring like this at somebody's chest, and I thought it went through their soul. Do you remember that night?
Yeah, I do, because I remember Darren Kane watched me do it, and he was like, "Ain't no way in hell you haven't tried that shit before." And I was like, "No, it was just like a spur of the moment." And he was like, "Bullshit. Nobody would think to do something like that." He was like, "You just, without even looking, grab a bottle of water and then hummed it across the room at somebody." And I was like, I knew that the guy was getting out of hand. And he was like, "Nah, bullshit." And it really was just kind of like a weird, like, I got caught like seeing some shit go down, and there happened to be a bottle of water right there. And I knew that it was going to take a few minutes for me to get over and get in the middle of it. So I like hummed this, and I'm not even like a great pitcher or anything like that, you know, like I'm not a quarterback, but I just fucking threw this bottle of water so fucking hard that it hit him like directly in the center of his chest. And it was like a video game, like his feet and arms like went out like this, and his body like flew back, and everyone turned to look at me.
It was like a Mortal Kombat finishing move.
It really did. I was like, I don't know how the fuck. We laughed about that so hard later. But we're gonna do a whole fucking podcast on crazy shit that went down between police, hiding from police, chicks, girls,
Changing
girls
clothes.
throwing up on fucking guy when he's trying to be smooth, guy stealing a girl's keys.
Do you fucking remember that?
See, this is why I said we're only going to talk about 11 a little bit, because it's all going to come up into my mind. Making out with chicks on the hoods of their cars and fucking leaving with their keys. So
and Odette showing up. I didn't do anything.
that was
Nothing happened.
That was probably like one of the craziest but most fun times of our lives. Then,
hands down.
we go from there into you become a pro bodybuilder, and you start competing. And I moved out to California. And I hated California. I didn't stay there that long, so I figure I did my last show, which was USA's that year in 2012. And then I moved to Florida, and I started Blackstone Labs. So around 2012, what were you doing? Where were you?
2012, I was in Jersey, married in Bridgewater, and I was with BSN. I started with BSN as sales in 2011, and then Then I won my first pro show at the Dallas Europa in 2011, and then they signed me as an athlete along with sales. But what happened was they had me as an athlete and for sales, but then my, I guess, appearance schedule got so heavily booked that it was hard for me to do sales. So they kind of just kept like paying me like my sales salary and my athlete salary, but I never really did sales after that.
But you were going on the road a lot in the beginning, I remember.
In the beginning, I was on the road a lot. I mean, that's how I built up a lot of rapport with a lot of the accounts that I still talk to today. Because, when I was with BSN, I did sales. And then when I went to my other sponsor, it was a startup company. So I had to wear many hats. So I had to keep in contact and make calls and stuff like that. So all those accounts that I dealt with, I maintained friendships with for 10 years. So
when you started out, who was coaching you when you won your first pro show?
My first pro show, it was Factory Mubarak.
Oh, that's right. The old factory days. So you won a show, and you were working for BSN, and you were with BSN until you went to Centurion, who was a competitor of ours for a while.
Yeah, no more, because once I left, that fucking company went like nowhere.
Truthfully, and it's not even him saying that. That is pretty much what happened. He was kind of like the heart and soul of that company. We were doing the same thing at the time. I was going and getting into accounts. Guy was getting into the same accounts for selling similar products. I felt that they were kind of like ripping off a lot of the stuff that we were doing, but me and Guy were always good friends, so we always kind of like passed ideas back and forth. And then when did you start working with Osito?
So Osito happened in 2000, I left Factory in 2012 because we did 6 shows and we missed the mark at every show. And Factory was like, you should, he goes, if you were to work with anybody else, he goes, I would say Chris Osito. And I was like, I already thought about that. And he was like, why don't you see what Chris says? So in 2013, there was the British Grand Prix. And I was actually working with Factory, but I was kind of like doing my own thing. And like Neil Hill gave me like a little insight because he was there and like was helping me a little bit towards the end. And I roomed with Jose because at the time BSN was my sponsor, so they paid for my room. Jose didn't have a sponsor, so he had a sponsor and they wouldn't pay for his room, so he was in my room. And Chris was constantly in and out of the room, and I would just like kind of sit there and like listen to Chris critique Jose and tell him what to eat. And I was like, man, this guy's like on fucking point. Like he's just like if he says he's at 10 o'clock he's gonna be here, he's at 10 o'clock. Like he follows this, he writes everything down, he's meticulous. And I was like, this guy's fucking like on point. So, and Chris did an interview, and I remember him in the interview saying that the most overlooked guy in the show was me. And I was like, wow, because my first, the first thing I remember about Chris was when I beat his guy in 2011 when I won my first pro show. His name was Fernando something, and in the interview, Chris goes, you know how Chris is with his like dry sense of humor. He's like, I don't know how a guy who won every pose didn't win the show. Talking about his guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, who the fuck is this piece of shit? Like, I thought like Chris was like a cocky asshole. And then once I got to like know who he was, I was like, this guy's pretty fucking cool. And then he was like, I talked to him before the show got over, and I'm like, hey man, like, would you be willing to like work with me? I was like, I saw what you did with Jose, and I have like the utmost respect for you, and I think it's pretty awesome. Like, I never had somebody like there like that for me. And he was like, messaging me around the new year. So like right before the new year, I messaged me, and I'm like, Chris, like I really want to work with you. He's like, I don't know, man. He's like, I got a lot of guys in the 212. I don't like to take on too many guys because, you know, then they start clashing at shows. And he's like, I don't want that. He was like, so he goes, how about you touch base with me after the new year? So January 2nd, I called him. And I was like, Chris, you have to work with me. I was like, nobody's going to fucking do what I do. Nobody's going to train how I train. Nobody's going to listen the way I listen. And Chris was like, all right, what show do you want to do? I said, Chicago. And he's like, all right. He was like, deal. He's like, let's go win Chicago. And I'm like, what about if I do well at Chicago? I go, what happens with the Olympia? He was like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And I've been with him ever since.
How many shows have you done together?
Probably mid-20s.
Can you even keep track of all the shows that you've done at this point?
If you ask me, I could probably name them all right now, but it'd be a fucking long list. But I won one show with Factory. I won 6 with Chris. So I've got a ton of second places.
So 6 pro wins with Chris, 1 with Factory.
7. Yeah. 6 with Chris, 1 with Factory, and I got a bunch of second and thirds.
So your first show, when did you win your first show with Chris?
2011. With Chris, 2013, they gave me second to Tricky Jackson, which was a fucking joke.
Oh, I remember that. I was pretty upset over that one. Yeah.
Yeah, because Tricky had no points at all, and I had points, and I just needed to place 5th, and I would go to the O locked in on points. And if Tricky didn't win, he wouldn't go to the O.
Yeah, I remember.
So they put me in second, Tricky in first. So 2 of us went to the Olympia instead of just me.
Yep.
And I remember with a judge was like, oh, I was like, can I ask what I'm missing here? He goes, yeah, your legs need to match your fucking upper body. I was like, all right, you clearly weren't paying attention because my upper body is not that good. So I don't know what you're referring to. But the first show that I won with Chris was in 2014. I did Dallas Europa and I won. Then I did the New York Pro and bullshit fucking took second to Aaron Clark, which was bullshit. And then I did, I got so pissed off. I was already qualified for the Olympia because I won Dallas. I took second at New York. I was so pissed off that I took second at New York. I went to Canada a couple weeks later, and it was the biggest show, 212. It was the biggest 212 show ever. There was 30 guys in the class, and I won.
Yeah, I remember that. That was after New York was a really big deal because there was a lot of people on the boards going back and forth with like who should have won between Aaron and Guy, and I'm trying to think if we had signed Aaron already. At that
I think you did because it was me. Aaron got first, I got second, and then remember Beto Albaspor who passed away. Yep, he took third. He was a freak.
He was a freak. He was really good.
I think Aaron's doing Temp Pro.
Is he?
Yeah. He is.
Who?
Aaron Clark. He's doing Tampa.
Oh yeah, he is diving.
Mm-hmm. You know, unfortunately for him, I think that his time has like come and gone in bodybuilding. But I wish him the best. You fast forwarding. Last year. Well, was it last year or the year before?
Last year.
When you had your shoulder.
2018.
Oh.
The summer of 18. So it was like right.
So shoulder issues for a while, and then you finally went in. What surgery did you have done?
It's called the tenodesis. It's where they go in, and your bicep tendon obviously attaches all the way up and attaches to your labrum. So my bicep tendons were so inflamed that I could barely even, like at night I would sleep, and I would have to have like pillows under my arms just to like relieve the pain. Almost like when you like hang over a preacher curl when you're doing like shoulders just to like relieve the fucking pressure. And I just couldn't take it anymore. It was unbearable. So I went to the doctor, and he's like, dude, I don't know how your bicep tendons haven't snapped. He's like, they're frayed. There's fucking pieces floating around. And I was like, all right. So what they do is they go in, they cut your bicep tendon away from your labrum, and then they drill a hole in your humerus and reattach the bicep tendon down here. So my biceps lost peak to them. But it definitely fixed whatever problem it was. I mean, I'm probably going to have to get like another surgery or probably shoulder replacements when I'm like in my 60s, and if they get worse. But for the time being, I just told them, I said, I want another 5 years out of my fucking career. So like you gotta, because what they normally do is just cut it and let it drop. If you're like you don't care about aesthetics, they would just cut it and let it drop, and it is what it is. But I couldn't risk that because of bodybuilding. So the surgery was a little more intense because I had to reattach the bicep tendon, which, they had to drill and pin and this and that and anchor it into my bone. But I did one surgery on June 26th of 18, and then I did the second surgery on July 31st. And then I started training in October, right after the Olympia. And I competed in my first show the following June after that, which was 2019.
So how much actual downtime did you have?
I was out of the gym for 17 weeks. Didn't train and do a fucking thing. Went from 238 pounds to 194.
Was that the longest time off you've taken?
Yes. Without a doubt.
Were you mentally going out of your mind?
You know what? Yes and no, because it was a struggle with the fact that mentally I knew I could get back to where I was, because I was like, if anybody can overcome this and just get back to where they were, I was like, it was me. But the only thing I was questioning is like father time. I'm like, I'm getting older. Like I'm 38 years old. So I was like, I don't know if my body is going to fucking respond the way it would when I was in my 20s. And it didn't respond as fast as it did, but it took some time. But I got back to where I needed to get back to. And now that I qualified in November, and now that Olympia got pushed back even further, it's making my life a little easier because I'm able to hold my weight a little longer, which I didn't do after my surgery. I kind of got up to like 232 pounds and then right into dieting. Like my body didn't have a chance to maintain that weight, And
I remember, actually, funny how that it all worked out. When you got your qualification, Sami was also there.
Yes, that's where I kind of I
was pissed.
Met Sami.
Yeah, because Sami was working with Osito also, and I had told them both that they should link up because they had similar personalities. Sami's very meticulous, and
I paid for Sami's fucking dinner because I was a nice guy. I paid for everybody's dinner. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
You owe me dinner, you little fuck.
We go Fridays, right? No, we went to
whatever the fuck. There was like nothing open. Remember?
Fridays, yeah, TGI Fridays. It was with Bola.
Yeah.
That was a funny night because you guys were both competing, and you both worked with Osito, and then Osito knew that me and you were best friends, but he also knew that I was super close with Sami from work, so he was calling me, which I thought was really cool. Osito calls me to give me updates on the guys, and he was just laughing like his ass off at the fact that he had Sami and Guy in the same show. And I was like, who's more annoying, Sami or Guy? And he was like, Sami 100 times. And he was like, I never thought I'd find somebody that drives me more crazy than Guy. He was like, but it's Sami. And we were both just laughing. Obviously, he was very happy because both of his guys had really good showings. He actually thought he thought that Sami was supposed to win. And
who won? Terrence Ruffin?
Yeah. And Ruffin was pretty off at that show, and he's a very good bodybuilder.
He beat me from the back, definitely. I'll definitely admit that. 100%.
But Sami went and got it, a week or whatever later. So now you guys are both.
What's crazy is Bola actually cut down the Classic right after that, and he competed with me. That was insane.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you don't remember? He didn't tell you?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 4 weeks later, Bola showed up. He went from, I don't know where he weighed in at the show in Niagara, but he had to weigh in at 180. And, bro, he had to have been, like, he almost died. He said, like, dude, he was literally sitting on the floor after weigh-ins, just, like, they hardly talk, like, nothing. And he was so shaky on stage.
Holy fucking shit.
Like, he literally killed himself. He was taking the Aldactone and Diazide, like, 12 days out. Damn. Starving himself.
Damn. Me and Bola kept meeting outside for a little rendezvous. Yeah.
So, November, you qualify, and that was the last of normal society as we know it. And then we go into this year, and all the madness with
fucking train wreck,
pandemic, and everything else goes on. and you got sick, right?
Yeah, I got COVID. Yeah.
You got fucking COVID. For those of you who want to meet somebody that's actually had COVID, he got COVID. And then I'm trying to think of the timeline of events. I probably should.
I'll tell you, I got COVID,
yeah.
Blood clot.
and then my smell and my taste still isn't back. I still can. There's 50% of things I can't smell or taste still.
Really?
And
How long
then
has that been now?
it was all. Huh?
How long has that been now?
Months.
12 weeks. For about 8 to 9, I couldn't fucking tell. I couldn't tell the difference between like eating dog shit and eating pussy. Like I couldn't. I have no idea.
So
it was that bad.
I had that same exact thing going on right now. I got sick
Ew.
probably 2 weeks ago, and I feel much better now. But I can't.
If you
taste
lost
or
your
smell
smell in your
For the record,
taste,
he had
you
a
absolutely had it.
sinusitis. He did not have the COVID.
Oh.
So I don't want people to be freaked out that we're all sitting in here passing around the COVID. here
Yeah,
in
no,
Blackstone Labs.
they ramrodded that fucking thing that touched like right up here in my nose, and they pulled
Like
it
Total
right
Recall.
out. And
Like Total Recall when Arnold's got the thing up there.
oh, bro, it was awful. And they like have a picnic up here because I got to roll it around for a certain amount of time before they pull it out. And then I ended up getting a fucking blood clot in my calf, and I noticed it myself, and I'm like, something's not right. And I was like, I think I have a blood clot. I took a picture, sent it to my doctor. He's like, go to the ER now. That was in the beginning of June, and then shortly after that, there was an incident with the car that my girlfriend accidentally backed up, and it was just something stupid. And because I bent over to pick something up, she didn't see me, and her wheel caught my foot. I went to the ER for that because I thought I broke my hand. My foot was swollen and black and blue. Thankfully, nothing happened. I was able to train still. I just wrapped my hand like a club and just to have a pad to be able to push. And then I was like, all right, my luck can't be that bad. I didn't like break anything. And then I ended up throwing out my back a couple weeks later, which is I'm still in a back brace. And because I just have a bad back, I have 2 herniations, 2 bulges. My back's just been bad from all the football and shit and squatting heavy. So I stood up and my back was out. So I trained quads on Friday instead of on a Wednesday. And there was like this Paramount leg press that I've never used at a gym in Queens. And I stepped back and hit my calf on the handle. And my calf exploded. And I thought I tore my calf right off the fucking bone. And it was so swollen and so like distorted looking. I iced it, and then I took an Epsom salt bath. After I got out of the Epsom salt bath, I was like, holy shit. I was like, my fucking calf doesn't hurt really anymore. So I was like, I went to bed and woke up in the morning, couldn't even move my fucking foot. My foot was fucking stuck. I couldn't even bend it. So I was like, what the? So I just kept icing it. Went to the physical therapist. They thought I just pulled something. Well, then I ended up going to the ER last week, and I had fucking cellulitis in my left leg.
Unbelievable.
So it's been like one thing after another. And then I ended up throwing my back out again on Monday. Went to the spine doctor to get an MRI because they want to give me facet injections, which they've done before because my back's just bad. And they needed an MRI. So I went to my spine doctor, my orthopedist. I went to my primary care doctor and my physical therapist. 4 doctors. They've declined my MRI twice. And the only thing they've done for me is give me oxycodone to take. So I called them yesterday and my insurance company, and I go, you guys haven't approved my MRI. I said, I haven't really been able to walk that good or fucking even train in the past couple of days. I said, and you guys have me popping oxys like Tic Tacs. I go, so I would appreciate if you guys can fucking give me my MRI so I can figure out what's going on with my back so I can have a day without pain. And I'm waiting for it to get approved today, but it's been a fucking nightmare.
What a fucking crock of shit.
And then you had to redo the house, right? The flooring? Because of like something.
Well, I'm at my parents' house now because my floors are getting redone. So it's like I got to wait for my floors to get done. The guy said they'll be done by the end of this week, so I'll move back in. But yeah, I got all my wood floors ripped up and new wood floors put down.
So you blew out your back, you blew out your shoulder, you caught the Rona, and you're still going to somehow do the Olympia.
fucking win, bitch.
Somehow this made sense for me to sign this guy after all this rap sheet that he just gave us.
Because I'm still fucking standing.
Doesn't give up.
Now I don't want to get too much into it, but I
know this is like hard because there's so many different directions and like little tangents we can go
well,
off on.
I'm trying to keep it mostly. I would like to keep it mostly positive anyway and fun.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that when my sponsor, me and my sponsor ended up parting ways, the first person that I reached out to was PJ, because I was like, there's no real other brand that I can see myself with, and I wasn't about to sign with another startup company or a company that is branded by another athlete, because I felt, me and PJ talked, and eventually, when my time's up and over, I might want to do my own thing, and me and PJ talked about that stuff, and I told PJ I'm not ready to do my own thing yet. I want to represent like a big solid company, because I've been with these startup companies and got treated like complete shit, and I see what Blackstone does, and I see what they do with like military and police, and the loyalty that they have with the fans, and me and PJ had talked about it for so long, and as soon as PJ was like, I think we can fucking work something out, I knew it was only a matter of time. I mean, I turned down a lot of other offers, and I even told the guys that made me offers, I'm like, listen, loyalty, and it's funny that loyalty is everything is one of the quotes, but I told a couple of guys, I'm like, listen, you're offering me like a very similar deal, and I have 20-year friendship with PJ, and I'm not gonna allow that to. I say I'm like, that's my determining factor, like my loyalty to PJ. Like PJ, I mean, I've known PJ since Jump Street in my bodybuilding career, so my loyalty is to him, and it made my decision pretty fucking easy. So I was very excited to sign with Blackstone. So I haven't been with a big company since BSN. And, Blackstone is kind of that hardcore brand that I think my personality really represents. So I just want to say that because I'm excited to be a part of the team.
Well, I mean, we knew that for years that we would have been a good team. It was the whole friendship thing. I made a joke. I was like, you know what? At least if I sign you now, you're probably retiring in a couple years anyway, and you can't really fuck me over anytime soon. But one thing about Guy is he was extremely loyal to the brands that weren't his friends, because he's just a very loyal and hardworking guy. So I knew that there would be a good bond and good loyalty to us at Blackstone. But what I actually told him in the beginning was, I'll try to help you get the best contract that you can. And we kind of had fun. Even like Cutler got involved in it a little bit, of like playing games of like, where's Guy going to go? Because there were a bunch of brands that were interested in him. And the main thing that I told him was, one of these smaller brands, you're going to be doing a lot more for them than they are for you. Where on our side, we're already established. We've been around for a long time. You can come right into being Guy Cisternino and enjoy all the
perks.
The perks, instead of having to carry it on your back. And it's no disrespect to the other companies. There was actually
no, but that is 100% the reason. On top of other things, but that statement is the main reason why I didn't want to go with another company. I did 6 years of that shit, growing companies and doing this and having like to go from ground zero and up. And I didn't want to do it anymore. If I'm going to do it, I wanted to do it for my brand. Like if I started a company, I didn't want to put my efforts to start another company that I have no equity in, no liquidity in. I get nothing for it. So it didn't make sense for me, And I think it's a pretty cool story that I kind of started my bodybuilding career with you as a training partner, and we're ending as business partners.
Yeah. And I think that it's very important that people understand that when you're deciding which kind of athletes that you want to represent your company, there's a few different directions that you can go in. And so what I had been doing for a while was taking very young guys and kind of like mentoring them, molding them, like building the stories behind them that I knew fit our marketing and made people really want to pay attention. And I'm not saying that I won't do that anymore, but it's a lot of work and it's tiring. Whereas with you, I knew everything is built in already. So it's sort of like
you know what you get with me.
Exactly. It's sort of like the relationship is there, and in all business, this is something that I try to teach people all the time, whether it's doing nails, doing bodybuilding, or working on Wall Street. Relationships are the key to all success. And so bringing on Guy, yes, we have a relationship for many years, but he has a number of relationships that he has built over the years that are also beneficial to not only Blackstone Labs, but really any other company. So when you look at somebody that's brand new, for instance, and people will reach out to me and say, this guy's got a lot of potential, this guy's a lot of potential, it is up to you as a sponsor to help him realize that potential, but it's up to him, the person, to go and make that happen. So with you, we already know everything that we're going to get. Like, I could tell the guys in the office, look, I know that he's going to work super hard. I know he has a relationship with these people. Like, we don't have to question any of that, where most of the time you're like, I hope that I get my money's worth here. So now we're in a spot where we know we can have a lot of fun and do a lot of things and keep people on their toes. And Joe Reiser's right by you. That's one of my main video guys. So we'll be able to get tons of content with you all the time, and just all sorts of exciting stuff and shenanigans. I am going to pee because I have to pee really bad, but I wanted these guys. I just wanted to get out of the whole, like, I knew we were going to do a little, like, busting each other's balls, like, suck each other off a little bit, and it's a cute story.
I'm just going to preface before you leave with this, okay? Just so you guys know, at Blackstone Labs and PJ Braun, I am best friends with PJ. I've been for 20 years. So PJ knows that I know everything about PJ. And you guys have to know that PJ being my best friends, I know a lot about Blackstone Lab people.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Be careful of the shots that you get fired, because my ammo clips are full of ammunition.
He was like, so what am I allowed to say about you on the show? I'm like, you can say whatever you want. I'm gonna pee real quick. I know these guys probably have some
go ahead.
stuff that, like, actual competitors and whatnot can listen to.
Yeah.
I'm done with the whole, like, dick sucking part. I'm very happy to have Guy Cisternino here. So by the time this podcast goes out, there'll be an awesome fucking video out. There's lots of other cool stuff going on, and you're gonna see a lot of us. I will be right back though.
Sami, and I'm trying to figure out, for some reason this thing turned into a split screen and not, like, have the little thing. I'm trying to, like, get it back.
You look normal on our side.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the fuck I did.
You just took a screenshot.
What?
You just took a screenshot.
I know, whatever. I don't fucking know what the hell's going on.
So
it's like, it's split, and I can't see, Dave, I can't see you. I can only see Sami, because it's like split in half,
Billy.
my fucking screen.
Yeah.
Can't figure it out. But it wasn't like that when I started. Oh, there we go. I fixed it. Ha, motherfucker. All right, now I can see you, Dave.
It's Billy.
Bill. Wait, who is messaging me?
Dave. Dave's the VP.
Oh, where's Dave at?
Well, he's downstairs.
He's downstairs.
Oh, I thought he was the one that called the Skype.
Yes, he is. It's his account. He has to set up through the Skype, but.
Oh, okay. I couldn't see you the whole time, so I thought it was Dave.
Yeah, I know. The camera's super small, so it's hard for us to fit all of us.
Yeah.
Small. But there's something I wanted to ask you, because
go ahead, bro.
An insane amount of shows. So the mental aspect of prepping for a show, has that gotten easier for you over time? Like, do you still get in your head about how you look?
Yes, that's never going to change.
Yeah.
That'll never change. I mean, as a competitor, you always get in your head before shows, and I think that's where it was fucking me up. I got, I did 4 shows before Niagara Falls, and the last show before Niagara was Cali, and I bombed that show. I took no diuretics. Chris had me doing, like, a little bit of alcohol and black coffee for my diuretic, and I ended up sweating profusely on stage. Looked like shit. Somehow I placed. I don't even know where. I shouldn't have beat anybody. It looked awful. And, Jay saw me leading up to that show, and at the night show, I was sitting in the audience, and Jay was like, bro, he's like, you can beat all these fucking guys. He was like, you got to stop fucking getting in your head. He's like, I know how you're thinking. Like, you're older, you had surgery, you might not look the same. He's like, I've been there. He's like, I know how it feels. He's like, but he's like, I also know what you're capable of. He's like, and I go, what do you want me to do, Jay? He's like, go to fucking Niagara Falls. He's like, get your head out of your ass. He's like, and go fucking win that show. And I was like, all right. So I, like, went home and I literally called my doctor, and I'm like, hey, can you give me something for anxiety? I was like, because I have like really bad anxiety backstage. And I said, like, I can feel the anxiety. I feel my heart start to race, and I could feel, and almost like I could feel my body flattening out.
Yeah.
And I said, but I go, you got to give me something that like doesn't fuck with my muscle. So he gave me like some anxiety med or anti-anxiety med, and I started taking it a couple days before the show to see how I reacted to it. And it didn't do anything physical to me that I felt or like threw me off or changed my like gastrointestinal tract or anything like that. So I was like, all right, this isn't bad. And I don't know if it was that or just Cutler's words, but I was really psyching myself out because when it's kind of like a catch-22 when you're younger. You kind of do the same stuff because you're up and coming. And I think once you get established, there's like a period where you're not really that worried. But then when like you can see the light at the end of the tunnel for the end of your career, I think that's where it starts to become like really nerve-wracking, and you start really like, because you have all these like new guns and like young blood coming up, and you just don't know what to expect or how they're going to look. So it's like an anxiety thing, Right. But yeah, the nervousness is never going to go away. Or the questioning or, how you look. And, every show that I do to this day, I think I look like complete dog shit until I look at pictures after the show.
That's so true. Yeah.
Do you still, this is, sitting here with Billy has actually made me think of this. Do you still tend to hold a little bit more of your fat in your midsection than anywhere else?
Yes.
Because Guy used to have like striated glutes. Like 5 weeks out, but still have like some love handles, and I know it used to drive him crazy, because Billy, like, he just has like stubborn spot there where you can look at him and the rest of his body looks ahead or where it's supposed to be, and then he stores his weight there, and it psychologically drives him crazy. But I'm like, look, that's just your spot, that's just going to be the spot that's last to go on.
You had your spot, I have my spot, we all did.
Mine was the bottom of my ass like a woman, which was the fucking curse. Dave used to pinch it, and your ass looks like my grandma's. It was just bad luck.
I guess I could.
There was nothing there, though. There was no fat. It was just like
just weird skin, And Dave used to be like, you need to make your glutes bigger. You need fuller glutes, more orthotics than squats. So I was doing so many fucking butt exercises and butt blaster and shit, trying to make my ass bigger.
We were killing legs.
Because Dave was all about giant asses back then, remember?
I know.
He wanted you to have the biggest, most giant striated ass. That's what it was all about.
I never remember walking into his house and seeing like fucking these monstrosity of shoes, and I like peeked at like the size, and it was like 14 or 15. It was like something absurd.
Yeah, but his good buddy Justin Miller, who coaches George Peterson. Told me that he told me a little secret that Dave's feet grew like 3 sizes in 1 year. And
really?
He's like, man, I don't know what those guys were getting into at that point. He's like, but Dave's feet grew like three sizes in 1 year. Now, I don't know if Dave will confirm or deny that.
Big. Dave said his feet always grew in size because he squatted so much that it flattened out his foot.
That's
bullshit.
That doesn't sound right.
I got a question. What does Michael Johansson look for in an athlete representing gas?
I think there's like a lot of different avenues that he looks at, because I don't consider myself a great bodybuilder. So I think he looks at the mentality, the training intensity, and how you conduct yourself and how you speak. Because like Branch isn't like, so you have to have one, some, or all of those qualities. Like Branch is the most loyal guy, one of the most intense guys I've ever worked out. He is the most intense guy I've ever trained with. He doesn't really talk a lot. And then you have, a guy like Johnny Jackson, who's just like a strong freak of nature. He doesn't really talk that much. And then you have me, who I have the intensity factor, but I'm very good in front of the camera. I think that's what, and I'm very good with business stuff. Like I've helped Gasp in many ways, like with ideas for clothing, sales, like they do the deal of the day, the 50% off, like those flash sales, like those were all ideas I threw at them. So when I'm involved in a company as an athlete, like, yeah, I do my athlete job, but like they actually flew me to Sweden to, they wanted my opinion because I'm very opinionated and I'm very open mouth. And I some of the clothing that they were making, like the shirts maybe like were too long in the sleeves or short or too thin. They brought me to Sweden and we went through everything and I broke down what I liked, what I didn't like, what could be better. And, Michael likes the fact that I go above and beyond for the brand and that I'm loyal. Like once you're in with Gasp, with Michael, you'll never, if you're in with Mike, he'll never let you go. Like he literally told me, like we went to Sweden and we're at the guy Martin's house, who's the other owner of Gasp. And we had a great time. And I was making Mike laugh. Like Mike was I've never heard him laugh like that. And we left there and Branch goes, you just solidified the rest of your life. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I've never seen Michael act like that and laugh. He goes, ever with anybody. He goes, and I know how much he considers you family. He goes, you'll never not be a part of this fucking company. And I like shit like that. Like that's that's the kind of brands that I want to be with. Like every time I've signed with a sponsor, I signed with intentions to end my career with that sponsor every time. Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking is
so loyalty is what he looks for, is loyalty.
I could definitely say I have the loyal part, and I could definitely say when it comes to above and beyond, I don't know. It's a question to ask PJ if I do go above and beyond a little bit.
He goes above and beyond, and he is very loyal. He's a very hard worker.
You should have just asked me, bro. I'll reach out I talk to Michael all the time.
I don't want to ask for a sponsor. I'm just trying to do it like indirectly, not like tagging him.
No, but the best thing to do is to ask. Your answer is always going to be no if you don't ask.
True, but I think people also need to realize that sponsors get asked that question 1,000 times a day.
There's a way to do
it. So you got to do it the right way, and you gotta know, you gotta be prepared to say what you're gonna offer. So like people come to me all the time and they're like, "Yo, man, what does it take to get sponsored by Blackstone Labs? I want to be sponsored by Blackstone Labs. Tell me what I got to do." And I'm like, "Well, everyone essentially has to do the same thing. It's just a matter of how much you're gonna actually do it."
Yep.
And that's what
and another thing with sponsors, at least with BSN, it wasn't zero, but when they first offered me a contract, I was getting actually pretty decent money. But with Michael, the first year I was with Michael, I made $0.
Yeah, I'm not even asking.
Because he
I'm
goes,
not even asking for money.
Huh?
I don't even want money. I just want to rep the brand.
No, I'm saying. So I started with $0. I started with him just giving me clothes, wanted me to come to the Arnold to sign pictures. They made a picture of me in Gasp clothing. I signed it the whole time at the Arnold, and after that was when he was almost like, see, a lot of people reach out to companies and they want a paycheck right off the bat.
Yep.
And if you don't have a resume to show anybody or anything to prove your worth, then it's your job to be like, it was my job to be with Gasp, not make any money for a year, and prove to them my worth, and I did that, and it came full circle, and now I'm one of their top athletes. All my sponsors, I've always started, in the beginning, like on the lower side of a salary or zero, because a lot of bodybuilders are the reason why bodybuilders don't make a lot of money from sponsorship is because bodybuilders did it to themselves.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of lazy bodybuilders. There's a lot of lazy guys that complain about this and that, and it's not hard to post on social media. It's not hard to take a picture. It's not hard to make a video. It's not hard to tag and post and hashtag. If your job is to be active on social media and go to the fucking gym and eat and sleep, and you can't do that, and you're not working a 9 to 5, then you're a lazy fuck and you have no business being a sponsored athlete.
Absolutely.
End of story.
Preaching the truth, man.
No, there's so many bodybuilders that think that they should get paid just for being good at bodybuilding.
Being alive, basically.
No, you get it alive.
Yeah, no.
Bodybuilding is such a very, very small part of where supplements actually go. You know what I mean? So people need to realize that, okay, there's many people that are looking up to you because they want to be a bodybuilder, right? And maybe those people are looking up to you because they're like, well, I want to get a supplement contract, whatever it may be. But there are so many people that are not bodybuilding that just like working out and could give a shit about bodybuilding. So for a company to put all of its money into bodybuilding truly makes no sense for the company. And that's where I think for years, there's been this misconception that, all right, I'm going to turn pro in bodybuilding and I'm going to get fucking paid to be a bodybuilder and that's going to be my life. It just doesn't work that way.
No,
it still has been going on for years. I mean, we knew when we were young, like for some reason we didn't drink that Kool-Aid that so many people drink. And we knew, we were like, all right, well, we're going to have our own jobs and do these things. And like, hopefully we get sponsors and everything else. And I believed, like, with all my heart that I was going to make money in bodybuilding. I figured it out pretty fast. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be one of the best bodybuilders in the world, but I love this sport. I'm going to do it other ways, and that's when I got into coaching and the other things that I did. You know, you've got to work with your personality and your mind to create all these avenues of success financially with bodybuilding. You can't just look good.
Yeah, you can. And another thing too, you have to bring, like, I tell people too, there's a couple things when people reach out to me about, like, well, how do you do this and how do you get sponsored? I'm like, well, there's a couple things. A, you have to be real, because I can pick out every fake person online just by how they talk. Like, even their motivational things, I can tell when they're reading off something when it doesn't sound organic. And I tell people, stay in your lane. Like, you got to figure out your niche and stay there. Don't try to do what other people do, because people like realism and they like truth. And when you give them something other than that, you will get exposed at some point. And, you know, when people ask me about sponsorships, they're like, you know, I want to be sponsored. My question I would always ask them, I go, if you owned a supplement company, tell me why you would sign you. And 90% of the time, they can't say anything. They don't have a big following. They maybe competed, did decent. And I go, listen, you can't ask a supplement company for a sponsorship when you don't. I go, when you bring nothing to the table, it's like a one-armed waitress. You bring nothing to the table and there's no point. So it's like you have to have value when you go to a brand, and you have to know your value. I
can definitely say I have value, because just coming off of when it comes to supplement companies, like 2015, I went to the grand opening of Boca Nutrition, and I talked to PJ, took a picture with him.
So you know, Sammy, I wasn't saying you don't have value. I was just saying,
in general, talking about the lazy bodybuilders out there, and you got to know.
Okay. I just wanted you to know I was not talking about you.
I can honestly say I've never done anything motivational. The only thing I can say is, like, I speak directly, and I don't have a filter, and I definitely say I can work fucking hard, and I can prove myself. I don't have a crazy following. Definitely don't. I mean, shit, I remember how I used to get my following, but now it's organic, and I can say, like, when it comes to...
How did you used to get your following since you said that? You can't drop a little fucking hint like that.
G4P.
No.
Yes.
No, unfollow.
You showed your schmecker?
That's how I got mine.
Unfollow, follow. You remember those apps they had? I started that, and I got up to 5K, and then... No, actually 10K, and then the 12.5 from now till then, the last 3 years, was just me. Just me being a part of Blackstones, you know, me just traveling, me going to stores, events, doing shows and stuff. But what I was trying to say is, with PJ, I asked him, I want to work for you, and at the time, they weren't hiring. But, you know, I looped my way out of it, you know, found a guy that actually worked in the call center, asked him to get me an interview. I kept begging, bro. I worked at NutriShop Fort Lauderdale, sitting there in the gay hood of the area, and, like, yeah, I did well in sales there, but I wanted to get the hell out. I wanted to work for a supplement company. I didn't want a sponsorship. I didn't want nothing. I just wanted to work, and I did. And the one thing with Mike, the reason I asked that is because I think I could really represent. I think I really look good in those clothes, and I like those. I like those clothes.
He's putting his heart out there, guy. He's putting his heart out there.
Listen, when I tell you I got you, I got you. Trust me.
All right, so listen, on that note, what more important note to end the podcast on than Guy trying to help out Sammy get some fucking clothes?
Sammy, if you killed me and grew a beard, you could probably fucking just, like, throw some white out in your beard and you would look exactly like me.
The beard is coming, man. I'm telling you. It's coming. That's the reason I'm doing it, just to see what I look like with the beard like yours.
So you could be like my fill-in. It'll be like, I don't want to do this show. Can you just compete?
All right, it's getting weird. Listen, I'm super, super excited about everything, and everybody in the company is excited too. We've been talking about this for a while.
Can't wait.
We've held it in for a while. We wanted to do the marketing the right way. By the time everybody listens to this podcast, you'll already see a very cool video from Joe Reiser, who just texted me, coincidentally, saying, hey, what happened? What went wrong? I don't understand. I saw a guy's post saying that he's announcing it next week. I thought you guys were doing it tonight.
See what I did? See
and
how
I was like, he's just trolling everybody.
Friends already messaged me, and I go, it's to throw people off like you idiot.
Yeah, so we can say all that now because the announcement will already be made. So if you guys like this podcast, I'm sure you will. Let us know. We'll do more. We got plenty more stories. Guy, thank you very much.
A lot of stories.
Man.
Thank you, guys.
Happy to have you, man.
Happy to have you, bro.
And I will say this, as I always do, but this one's directed just to you. I love you very much. Peace out, bye.
Love you, buddy.
All right.